Gas tank. Boom,
Boom,
boom.
boom.
If you haven't watched What's Eating Gilbert Grape, go watch it today. Figure out
Immediately.
what it's playing on and go watch it. It's such a good movie.
Yeah. Pause this podcast and go watch it and then come back. And then you'll get that first line.
Yeah. It's like a very young Johnny Depp and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Mhm.
Such a good movie. And like we said, Leo should have won a freaking Oscar for that performance.
Mhm.
He would have been like the youngest person to ever win an Oscar if he had won.
Yeah.
And he should have.
Leonardo
That's
DiCaprio should have won an Oscar so many times before he actually won an Oscar. Like, I don't even know what role. What role did he win his Oscar for?
The Revenant?
No shade to The Revenant, but what are we going to do about, first of all, Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Third of all, The Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh my God, yes. The Wolf of Wall Street?
Was
phenomenal
so
performance.
Good. Yes.
You know what? Leo's been snubbed from awards his entire life. We're done with it.
Yeah, not here on this podcast. You're getting the honorary recognition that you deserve.
Yeah.
I wish you would date a little older, but other than that, it's fine.
Yeah. Just like stick in your little age range, you know?
Yeah.
You know, we're too old now for Leonardo DiCaprio to date.
Isn't that sad? That's why we get, like, when I turn 30 in a couple weeks, that's probably what I'm gonna like say about it. It's unfortunate because I'm too old for Leo now. Sorry, Leo, I love you, but it's true.
Yeah, it's so accurate. The reason why we started like this is because we were talking about different movies and going through like different reviews of movies, and whoever reviews movies on Rotten Tomatoes, honestly, go fuck yourself.
Rotten Tomatoes is such a poor decision maker if you want to watch a movie. Like, do not look at those ratings. Do not look at the percentage because it's probably going to be wrong.
No, like Anyone But You, the movie with Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney, has it's only a 62%. Why? Like, that is such a good movie. It's such a cute, funny movie.
Is it the people like at Rotten Tomatoes, or is it just people? The audience?
I don't know. Josh said this the other day. Movie reviewers have such a horrible job because I feel like they watch movies and they pick apart every movie that they watch and they can't just sit there and enjoy it. So that sucks for them. Well, we're like 3 minutes into this podcast and we haven't welcomed our audience.
That was welcome.
Welcome to Verified Therapist.
I thought Match in the Gas Tank was a pretty good welcome, but
that is
we'll
officially welcome you. Welcome. Yeah, officially welcome. Well, let's get started with some highs and lows. You want to go first?
My high of the week. I know that everybody's just so invested in this journey that I'm on to get all of my Taylor Swift finals. 1989 Rose Garden version is on its way to me right now as we speak.
Yay!
So that's the third installment. It was on sale at a record store. I don't even know where the record store was, but I saw it on sale. Snatched it up. And they shipped it super fast. Like, I ordered it probably like Friday at like 11, and it was already like shipping information and everything about like 2. So doing better than Jeff Bezos right now.
Yeah.
So we're one step closer to having them all. I don't really know if I want to do all original versions and also Taylor's versions, because I feel like that if I do original versions, Scooter and Scott are getting my money, and I don't really like that. So
yeah, they don't need your $20.
Yeah, even though I already got the Reputation original, because I have no choice right now. Taylor, if you're listening to this, you're not leaving me any choice. But yeah, one step closer in that. So
yeah, that's exciting.
I'm going to use this as my low. I'm going to have 2 lows. They're very small lows. But one low is that I started Touch of Chaos this morning, which means that it's almost over for me.
Oh my gosh, I bought it yesterday. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
I haven't touched it.
I started it this morning because I finished Touch of Malice yesterday. So, I've started it, not very far into it yet. I'm not really like, it's not bad, but it's kind of making me switch perspectives. Like, you go back and forth between Hades and Persephone. Not my fave, just because I've not been reading Hades' point of view this whole time, so I'm like, now you're gonna force me to do it. But
yeah,
I'm in it regardless. So, but also, again, very small low, but it's there. I paid for everything to get my state background check for my license. Got it sent off. Literally just got it in the mail. We got an email from the licensing board this week saying that you don't even need that anymore.
Yeah.
So I paid for it, waited, sent it off and everything, got it back, and then they're like, just kidding. You don't need it anymore.
Just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were talking about it at KCA that they were going to put that up and they were going to like vote on it and everything. And I guess it passed. So couldn't they have done it though, like a month ago for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Literally, I paid like,
it's like $20.
It's not that much. It's $20. Like, I paid $20 to get a paper that says no criminal record. I'm still attaching it with my FBI one. I'm attaching it because I paid for it. Y'all wanted it. I'm turning it in. So yeah, very small lows, but they're there.
Yeah, because I mean, it is just like redundant, and it's extra money that we have to pay for no reason.
Yeah, because the FBI one would pull up whatever we had. So
exactly. So why do you have to do a state one too? It's so stupid. Yeah.
So I guess now we don't have to. So if you're looking to be an LPCA/LPCC in Kentucky, that's not necessary anymore. Good for you.
They sent like a whole list of changes.
Yeah.
So
I read that and I was like, are you kidding me?
Well, to go back to Touch of Chaos, so
yes,
you finished A Touch of Malice, which leaves on a huge cliffhanger.
It does, yeah.
I have waited 2 years. When that book ended, I threw it across the room because I was just like, when is this next book coming out? And then it was just like, oh, A Game of Fate, which is Hades' perspective. And I was like, no, I need the next one in this like whole entire series, not like going back to the beginning of like
what I already read. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how you survived that. I literally don't know how, because it ended in my Kindle and I went out and I searched Touch of Chaos, paid $5 for it because that's cheaper on Kindle Plus or whatever. Hit read now and I was in the next
2 years. 2.
Yeah. I'm really sorry to hear that.
Yeah. And then, because it was like, when I finished the book, I went and searched on her website, and on the website was just like, yeah, it's expected in 2024. And I was like, ma'am, this is like March of 2022. What the fuck are we doing here? No.
If I was an author, I don't know that I would want to go back and have multiple books in different perspectives, because I would hate to like have to go back and weave. I mean, maybe she does them at the same time, so it's easy, but like that would be like confusing to me. You know, like I would have to go back and like weave everything together. That would be hard. I don't know.
It sounds like it is. I mean, Stephanie Meyer did that with Twilight. Like she wrote Midnight Sun. Yeah. And that was a huge release just like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's true. Listen, you said Twilight, and it reminded me, this week I was in session with one of my clients, and they're going to Washington to visit their friends, and they've never been before. And I was like, take a raincoat because it rains a lot in Washington. And they were like, oh, you've been to Washington? And I was like, nope, but in Twilight, it rains all the time. So I have it on good authority that it rains.
That's why the vampires can come out, because it's cloud covered. The sun isn't out, so they're not sparkling out there. I'm sorry. I think that's probably like the dumbest thing about Twilight. I would rather the sun come out and them catch on fire than them fucking sparkle like diamonds.
I feel like it
Get
kind of
real.
takes away from like the fantasy of it, like because when you're reading a fantasy book, there's like deathly consequences to everything that is out of order or whatever. So I feel like that them sparkling versus like burning up in the sun is just not very. It's just very tamed.
No, like him like ripping a shirt off and just like, it's the skin of a killer, Bella. Like you literally look like you just walked out of K Jewelers. Like
I was about to say,
get real.
I'm not even kidding you. I was about to say, this is the skin of K, is what this is.
This is the skin of K Jewelers. Please. Get real, Edward. Anyways, you know you're fucking attractive, Robert Pattinson. You get out of here.
Listen, nobody hates Twilight more than Robert Pattinson, so.
No. As he should.
You can see the disdain on his face every time somebody asks him about it. He's just like, ugh, not this again.
Not again. Since we're talking about movies, I'm going to go to my low, which is I watched the dumbest movie on earth last night. It's called Geostorm. It has Gerard Butler in it. I didn't know. Okay, so like it came up on my Hulu as like suggested, which I guess I'm a weather person, so obviously a weather movie is going to come up on my suggested list. So I clicked on it and I just started it without even like looking into it or whatever. I was like, cool, let's see what this is about. And then Gerard Butler pops up and I'm just like, what's he doing here? And then there's these huge storms that come up around the world, obviously because of global warming. And he creates some kind of like net around the earth and like a satellite, but like build a satellite that protects the earth from all this weather. And so basically this controls the weather. And then someone hacks into it and starts creating all of these huge storms or like around different parts of the world. Yeah, there's some kind of like political game to it or whatever, but like it's so unrealistic that it's comical at times because I'm just like there's multiple parts. Like one of the characters in it is like Secret Service to the president, and there's so many times where I'm just like, there's no way that you could do this as a Secret Service person. Like there's no way you can walk like while you're guarding the president. Your boyfriend comes up and you go and talk behind like this huge thing on the tarmac while the president is boarding the plane. Like, no, you can't do that. And then there's like another part where she's just like at the DNC convention, she's just like starts like shooting in the air to like get people to get the president out of there. And I'm like, someone would have fucking seen you shoot in the air. She was just like, shooter, 2 armed gunmen, blah, blah, blah. Someone would have seen you. It's not even the weather stuff that's like unrealistic. Yeah, I mean the CGI stuff is pretty ridiculous, but just the plot line. Like she also kidnaps the president at one point, and I'm just like,
on what planet?
I know you're Secret Service, but like there's at least like 5 Secret Service members around the president at all times. You can't just be like, you go this way, I go this way, blah, 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 and then I'm the only one with the president. Like, no, that isn't how it works. And you like walk out of this building with the president holding him at like gunpoint and then putting him into like a taxi. No, none of it makes sense.
I looked it up.
It's insane.
It's got a 17% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay, Rotten Tomatoes, accurate on that one.
Accurate on that one.
That's the only one that you're freaking accurate on. I should have looked that up before I watched the movie because that just put me in like a horrible mood for the rest of the night. I should have never watched it.
Is so bad.
I kept watching it because I was like, I have to make it through it. Like I've committed, so I have to make it through it.
Like better than me because like if a movie is that bad, like halfway through, I'm like, I'm out. I don't care how it ends. I gotta go.
I mean, there's so many parts where Gerard Butler's like, the satellite is like station in space is like blowing up around him and he's just like floating in space. And I'm just like, again.
What are you doing here, Gerard Butler?
Unrealistic as fuck. I'll stop talking about it, but it was comical how terrible it was. Well, anyways, my high for the week was another movie that was actually good, which was the Eras Tour. I got to watch it with my friend Courtney, and we made like themed cocktails and everything. And it was really fun to just like sit there and dance and walk. And I had a cardigan on, and I was like dancing around during cardigan, and it felt really fun. So
it's like, it's been so fun to experience like Eras live, and then Eras in the movie theater, and then now Eras at home. Like yesterday I was like, which I watched it Friday night, but like Saturday, like I am just gonna put it on while I clean. Terrible decision, because I'm like, I start off that way, and then I'm like watching. I'm like standing in front of my TV, like holding something, just like standing there watching. So don't know that that's going to be the cleaning soundtrack of our life, because I'll never get anything done. But I've already watched it like 2 or 3 times since it's been out, since Thursday.
Yeah, it's so good. Like the whole visuals and like the tolerated performance. Like I was talking to Courtney about this. Yeah, I need that on a soundtrack where I can listen to it all the time, because like just like the drums that sound like a heartbeat and everything, like it's so good.
I kind of would like to see her put out an album that's a recording of the way that she sings things and at the Eras Tour, and the way that the music is, because there's a part in Ready for It too that she sings differently, obviously, than on the track. And so like I hear it now every time that I hear the song, and I love it. So I would love for her to see like, or to put out something that has all of those recordings on there.
Yeah, same here.
Eras Tour, Taylor's version.
Yeah, that would be good. And also like the transition from Lavender Haze to Antihero, like how it just like the drums just like smoothly transition into it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so good. I love it. That's probably one of my favorite transitions. Obviously, other than Don't Blame Me and Look What You Made Me Do.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Such a good one. Here's Binks' appearance for the week.
Hey, Binks.
Say hi, buddy. You got something to say?
What do you think about the Eras Tour, Binks?
Binks, do you like the Eras Tour? Okay. I don't think he doesn't have a lot of thoughts right now. He just wanted to come in here.
Yeah, he looks annoyed currently.
Yeah. He missed his mama. It's okay, buddy. Since we talked about One Tree Hill a few weeks ago, I thought we would talk about the drama that has been going on with Bethany Joy Lenz and Hillary Burton.
I was going to say maybe Sophia Bush is kind of in the middle, but I feel like she's more on Hillary's side, if there's sides.
Yeah. So basically, the whole thing that started it is Bethany Joy Lenz came out with a book. She produced the cover of the book that's coming out in a couple of months, and it's basically like a tell-all of like being in a cult while also being in a like cult TV show. And the covers of the book are pretty similar. Like it's kind of got that like old-timey like oval picture of Bethany that is similar to Hillary Burton's cover of her book that she just came out with last year called Grimoire Girls. Hillary posted on her story on Instagram and on Twitter something that Pink said.
It was like, flattery isn't the highest. No, imitation isn't the highest. Yeah, imitation isn't the highest form of flattery. It's just annoying. Yeah.
And then they unfollowed each other on Instagram.
I think that there's more to it, because I feel like that Hillary would not. That just seems really petty. Like, I just feel like that there's more to it. I also heard that there was some hurt feelings because they had decided, well, I guess they had talked about, I guess something was decided, but that if they were going to write a tell-all book, they were all three going to do it together. And so maybe they felt like there wasn't a conversation had about, but I don't know how much, I mean, who's to say how much of the One Tree Hill stuff is in her book? It might just be kind of like the cult stuff, you know?
Yeah, like her experience in the cult and being on this TV show at the same time, and how difficult for her it was to like manage those two. Maybe like that's what that is. I don't know. Nobody's read the book, so nobody knows. It's not out yet.
Yeah.
So we'll figure it out. But I also heard that Bethany Joy Lenz has a history of posting some very like kind of homophobic things, and their political views are extremely different. And I think that has a lot to do with it, because Hillary and Sophia are very active and like huge activists. And Bethany is kind of on the opposite side of that. So I think maybe that has something to do with it. And you can hear it in the Drama Queens podcast, where their views differ on a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think they've had some really good conversations that has like opened Bethany's eyes, because she's like, oh, I didn't know that. And so like Sophia has come in with like statistics and like different things, because Sophia is such a huge advocate for these marginalized communities, that she knows all of this stuff. She's done her research. She can present the facts and a good argument. So I think it's awesome to see that on the podcast. That's what I've always taken it as, of like, oh, okay, so like Bethany, it can be very close-minded at times, but then they open her eyes up a lot more. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's kind of doing the exact opposite.
Well, and you have to think too, I wonder how much of Bethany's viewpoints were shaped by the cult that she was in.
Yeah.
So like maybe she's just now getting to a place to where she can have these conversations, and like you said, maybe they're not working as much as like we thought that they were, to open the mind a little bit on those things and those topics. And I don't know, I think it's sad because they just went through this very traumatic thing together, but maybe I don't know what's going to happen with the podcast. I don't know.
Yeah, because they had the girl that plays Gigi, Kelsey, on there. And what they do is when they have a guest, they do like kind of like a question, like a Q&A. And then the next episode, they go and talk about the episode. So they do like 2 episodes with one guest. So we don't have like a new recording since the drama happened, because last week's episode was just like the continuation of Kelsey's episode. So we don't have anything since the drama fully broke. So we'll know something Monday, if like they were all 3 recorded together, or if it's just Hillary and Sophia, or Sophia and Joy, don't know. We'll know tomorrow though.
Yeah. We'll see. Well, and I guess by the time that our podcast airs, we'll have known, because this will come out later this week. So,
yeah. So maybe we'll do like an update on Instagram, which is another reason why you should follow our Instagram.
Shameless plug.
Well, we'll see. The girls are fighting, and we'll see if they resolve it. Yeah. Or if they even address it or talk about it. Yeah. Well, do you want to go into Kate Middleton?
Kate Middleton, where are you, girl? We're concerned. We're really concerned.
We are. Yeah.
It's so funny. My mom is like a major royal family person. Also, I don't know how she missed this, because she is such a major royal family person, but she had no idea any of this was happening until I filled her in like on Friday. And I texted her and I said, where is Kate Middleton? That's all I said. And her response to me was, I don't know, I haven't talked to her today, with a shrugging emoji. And I was like, okay, well, she's missing, so we're concerned. But she had no idea about any of this. But we still have yet to hear anything from Kate Middleton. I saw this last night, saw it more confirmed this morning, that the BBC has now been put on standby, as the royal families will be making an announcement sometime before Wednesday. Nobody knows what that announcement is. I also hear that royal staff also don't know where Kate Middleton is, which is concerning. So I'm wondering if we're going to get a divorce announcement. I don't think it's anything too outlandish. Like, I don't think that she's, like, I hope not, like, passed away or anything like that, but the rumors are becoming more and more circulated that William had an affair and that there was a possible pregnancy with his affair. And so with Rose Hanbury. So
yeah, because we're getting a lot of press about Rose Hanbury. Like, a lot of people are talking about her and kind of trying to, like, paint her in, like, a kinder light. So people are also speculating, like, is this going to be like a Diana situation where he divorces Kate and then kind of has, like, the Camilla moment of, like, transitioning? But, like, it didn't work with Camilla because nobody fucking likes Camilla.
But I'm wondering if that's what they're trying to do differently this time. Yeah. It's not going to work. But I'm wondering if they're going, because Camilla was just kind of, like, shoved in there. You know what I'm saying? And then got bad press on the end of it. So I'm wondering if they're trying to flush out this good press to try to, like, get ahead of that and try to warm everybody up to it. Nobody's going to warm up to it, especially because of Diana. Nobody's going to. So this all just looks very, very bad.
Yeah, doesn't look good. I've also heard, like, maybe this is Kate hiding out so that he can break up with his mistress and she'll come back when he's broken up with her. Like, this is her kind of, like, holding out on that. Yeah. There's so many conspiracies, like, flying around right now but I feel like the royal family has to say something more definitive. Yeah. Because, like, that picture, all this stuff.
Too much. And there's been too much said. And I don't believe there's people on TikTok who are being like, well, Harry and Kate were having an affair, and that's what all this is. And I'm like, okay, that's just wild to me. But I do believe that this is some kind of separation of sorts. It doesn't make any sense. She gave birth to kids, was in heels the next day out front of the hospital taking pictures with them. But she has this abdominal surgery and is doing well, but can't sit on a 5-minute Zoom and say, I'm okay. Like, none of it makes sense. So I don't know.
Just, like, coming. Post a picture from a hospital bed that's not altered. You know, something like that. Just be like, hey,
I'm here.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
You know, which makes me concerned that it's something more of like either something really bad has happened or she is kind of like being like, okay, William, pull your head out of your ass or I'm going to disappear and see how much people care about me when I disappear.
Yeah. You would think that William would have learned something. If what we're thinking is along the lines of what's actually happening, that destroyed his mom.
Yep.
To which I knew that from what it sounds like, he loved her very much. So, like, I don't know. But you know what they say, if you don't learn from history, it repeats itself. So.
Yeah. Literally.
We're kind of back.
I think we can learn from that because Diana and Charles were, in a sense, like an arranged marriage, and William and Kate were essentially an arranged marriage too. And what people are shitting on about Harry and Meghan is they weren't an arranged marriage. They were like, he fell in love with her, he wanted to marry her, and people hate that he moved his family to the US to kind of separate himself from not only the royal family, but also said, like, I'm trying to protect my family so this isn't a repeat of what happened with my mom.
Right.
Because he is so terrified of paparazzi because of what happened to Diana.
Yeah.
And for people to continuously shit on him of like him putting his family first over the royals. Over
the crown. Yeah.
Yeah, like, who gives a shit?
Right.
What they do with their life now. Oh, it makes me so mad. It literally makes me so mad when people shit on him and Meghan. I'm just like, what did they do?
Yeah.
What did they do?
You know what? Harry was never going to be king. Even though, I will say this, I did learn this week as well. What's his name? Nostradamus? The guy who predicts the future.
Yeah.
makes prophecies, whatever. He predicted that, like a long time ago, apparently, that William would never be king, that he would abdicate, and that all of his kids would somehow be abdicated, so it would go to Harry. That would be kind of cool, I think, because I think Harry would be a good king, and I think Meghan would be a good queen, and I think that would almost force them to be more progressive than what they are. Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen. Harry was never going to be king, so why are we, like, going to also hold him to some standard of, like, you need to be in an arranged marriage, and you need to do this, and you need to do that? I mean, Harry wrote a book called Spare. He was the spare in case something happened to William. So, like, you know what, Harry, go off and you live your life. William should too, but he's not going to, because that crown is taught as the most important priority. So
yeah, you protect the crown above everything else.
I always think about in The Crown that, like, it just always stands out to me, the fight that Charles and Diana have in there, and he calls it a grotesque misalliance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was that actress that played Diana? Like Emma, on this season 6?
Emma,
no, on season 6.
No, on season 6. I don't remember what her name was. I couldn't keep up with all of them. Elizabeth Debicki.
Yes. She has, like, swept the award season.
Yeah.
With her performance of Diana, because it was so spot on and it was so accurate. It was so good.
She even looked like her.
Yeah. And she sounded like her too. Like, I saw an interview that she did where she was, like, talking about how she just studied Diana and different like phrases and different sayings, and she would just, like, constantly walk around saying those different phrases and those different things to continue to pick up on the accent and everything. And it was so good. So accurate. Like, her mannerisms, everything. It was perfect.
Such a good job. Yeah. We love The Crown.
We do. The royal family watches The Crown. Like, the Queen watched The Crown.
Yeah. So
she talked about it.
She was like, thing. She had bone cancer, and the last 6 months of her life was doing Zoom calls. But Kate has an abdominal surgery that she's doing well from, and you can't smack her on Zoom.
Yeah. And Charles has cancer too, and he's doing Zoom calls.
Yeah.
We're seeing all these people that are sick doing Zoom calls, but Kate. It's weird. It's really weird.
And you would think that if there was nothing wrong, she would be insistent, and they would be insistent on, like, coming out and saying nothing's wrong. Like, we'll see. We'll see with the BBC broadcasts later this week. I'll have an update.
Will be interesting to see. So, moving on. Let's move on to Ariana Grande.
Oh, Ariana Grande.
Where did you see that they broke up? And I just, like, I wasn't really on my phone yesterday, so.
I just saw it on TikTok. We're not really 100% sure. It's just reports coming out on TikTok.
Let's see if E! News has posted anything.
E! News has not, so. And E! News is like my Bible. If they post it, then I'm like, okay, it's true.
People Magazine is my Bible.
People's good too.
There's nothing about it. So, well, rumor has it.
Yeah, I just saw it on TikTok, so this is unconfirmed by anybody.
Rumors circulating that Ariana Grande and Ethan might have broken up. Who could have foreseen that?
Yeah, we're not shocked.
If that's true, then we're definitely not shocked. But then there's also, like, rumors, like you said, about Evan Peters potentially. So I don't know. Listen, someone pointed this out that I saw on TikTok too. So, do you remember the movie Sleepover?
Evan Peters was in it. Yeah.
Evan Peters was in it, and he played this character, and he was really nerdy. And they called his character SpongeBob. And so he's in the music video with Ariana Grande now, and Ariana Grande is dating Ethan, who played SpongeBob on Broadway.
This is all just twisty.
It is.
Ariana, what's your connection to SpongeBob?
Someone was like, did she do this on purpose, or did she just like, I don't know, happen to run into Evan Peters and was like, please be in my music video with me?
Yeah.
Was it intentional, or
I would
was this
say
a coincidence?
if this was Taylor, I would say that this was intentional, but it's not Taylor. Nobody Easter eggs quite like Taylor, so I'm gonna say it was just coincidence.
Yeah. Either way, it's a cute music video. It's actually a really sad music video. I mean, this album is sad. It's a bop, but it's sad.
Yeah. I think that Ariana, just from an outside perspective looking in, I think she's got a lot of relationship trauma from Mac Miller that she still has not processed.
Yeah.
Through fully.
I agree that she has some relationship trauma that she's never fully dealt with. But does that also excuse running two marriages?
No. I don't think that your trauma or your mental illness or anything excuse your behavior. It might explain it. It might like make it more understanding, but it doesn't excuse it.
Everybody go listen to Ariana's new album. So
Eternal Sunshine.
It's really good. It's definitely it's definitely like a springy album.
It is, yeah.
Let's go into Vanderpump, since we've been yapping for like 22 minutes on other topics. Let's go into Vanderpump.
This week's episode was the Sheena show, to which she says that she's never the number one girl in the group. And I just have to beg to differ, because that's what this episode was Sheena.
So Sheena's comment about Ariana really pissed me off. Ariana got Dead Sync with the Stars last summer, was when she got like booked for it and everything. She didn't win, but she got like what?
Like third, I think.
Third, yeah.
Yeah.
So she was in the finale and everything. So she made it really far, and she was really good too. And now she's on Broadway, so obviously we know she can sing, dance, act, all the above. Sheena made the comment to Lisa that like Dancing with the Stars was everything that she's wanted, like she's just dreamed of it, and then made the comment in confessionals of like, Ariana's come a long way from being my backup dancer, and showed this horrible clip of Sheena singing one of her many terrible songs, and Ariana was a backup dancer to it. And then went on a podcast, because she was getting shit for saying this, went on her podcast and said, that was a self-deprecating joke. I meant it all out of love. I guess it just didn't land the way that I wanted it to.
Stop saying things about your best friend like that. Stop saying those things. That is not, I feel like at this point, Sheena strives more for Tom Sandoval's validation than to be a good friend to Ariana.
The comment that she made at that lunch that she had with Christina Kelly, Katie, Lala. So Christina Kelly asked Sheena, do you think Tom is more upset about losing your friendship than losing the relationship with Ariana? And Sheena had the audacity to say yes.
Because she's delusional.
Because Ariana and Tom were on the rocks for so long that like he's definitely more upset that he lost me as a friend than his girlfriend of 9 years. The fucking audacity, and the way that I don't think I would ever talk to Sheena again. To be honest, if you're my friend and making comments like that, no, you're not my friend.
No, my best friend. Like, someone who you have walked around since she's been on the show and said, Ariana's your ride or die, she's your best friend, she's the closest person to you. But Sheena always does that. In the moment when it's like heated, she picks the side that everybody's going to be on. And then she wades on that, and then she ends up, she did the same thing when it was Ariana, and like when Kristen Doty and Ariana were on the outs. Kristen Doty was saying like, I hope she gets hit by a Mack truck. Yeah. And Sheena would be like, well, she didn't really say that about me, so okay, well, she's saying that about somebody that you claim to love.
Yeah, defend your friend.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I just think that she just lives in such like a. It's delusional. You're delusional.
It is.
And then she had this conversation with Lisa, and Sheena always says shit like this, and it makes me so just crazy. She says, well, I had just started taking dance lessons in preparation for if they called me. Okay, you've been on Vanderpump Rules for 11 years, and magically this year, you start taking dance lessons for if they call you. What are you talking about? Like, she always says that she's done this special thing in case they were to call her, or in case this were to happen, or like, I've been working on this album for however many long, or however many hours, or this song, or whatever, and it's like, just say you're jealous and call it what it is.
But like Ariana said on Watch What Happens Live, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Since she got on it, who's to say that they're not going to call somebody else up from Vanderpump later on to be like, hey, come be on Dancing with the Stars.
And I do feel like that Sheena knows that, and I think that part of this season is her like trying to make enough of a splash so that they might call her next. You know, like I think she's trying to play, since her game of checkers didn't work out, I think she's trying to play chess. And I think that she's saying, well, if I can make enough of a stir, then they will call me to do it. I also thought it was crap that she sat at that astrology reading with everybody, and she heard how Ariana was responding about James going to dinner with Sandoval and how that really bothered her. So she was like, so I'm going to sit here and say nothing. So now you look like you're hiding your friendship with Sandoval. Because not only are you like gonna be crappy in doing it, but you're gonna like look really shitty trying to hide it. So you're just gonna sit here and not be honest about where you're at.
And also, like, Lala was so upset last year when everyone was, or like when Schwartz went and played pickleball with Randall.
Yeah.
She was like, if you're gonna go and be friends with my ex, then I don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
And then Lala and Sheena were on a podcast last summer talking about like, yeah, I understand if Ariana doesn't want to be friends with people who want to be friends with Sandoval because that's her protecting herself. And now, like, probably like a month after they recorded the podcast, they are now on the show being like, Ariana's being dramatic about this.
Yeah.
When she's literally just setting a boundary, like a good, healthy boundary of like, I don't want anything to do with anyone who wants anything to do with him because he's not a good friend. And Katie said this too. Like, he ruined her marriage. He has done so much stuff to her. Like, she doesn't just not like Sandoval because of Ariana. There's a laundry list of reasons why Katie hates Sandoval. Yeah. And why no one should be friends with him because he is sneaky, shady. He does all this stuff. If he could lie to everyone, I'll say this again. If he could lie to everyone for months and months and months and manipulate and go behind everyone's back like this, why would you want to be friends with someone like that?
And I feel like that they're falling for it again. The manipulation again. He knew that Sheena would be the one to get him back in with the group because Sheena's the one who pries for that validation the most.
Yeah, she said she's a people pleaser, and I'm like, no. Like Katie said, she seeks male validation, more than female validation, and she values more like her male friendships than she does her female friendships. All the time. It goes back to that whole scene where they were, where were they? And she was just like, I would rather hang out with you guys than those girls.
They were at, was it somebody's birthday or somebody's bachelorette party. She was in the van with all the guys and made jokes about getting gangbanged by all the guys. Yeah. And I remember that because it became a whole thing. And yeah, she said that she would rather be with them than with the girls.
Was it Stassi's birthday party?
I think it was Stassi's birthday party.
Yeah.
So, like, I watched Lala talk to Ariana about how Ariana didn't come to her defense. And from the outside looking at it, why should she come to her defense? because there was an Instagram post that was made when they were in Lake Tahoe with the fan, and Sheena was standing right next to Tom Sandoval, and this is right after all this happened, so people were commenting. And I don't think people were just saying that because of that picture. I think people knew how Sheena continuously showed up in these friendships. So, of course, when she's photographed right next to him, people are going, why aren't you having Ariana's back? Why are you even hanging out with him? And then Lala then comes to Ariana and is like, why are you not defending her? And I'm like, why should she defend her? Yeah, why should she defend her? First of all, I'm not talking to you anymore if you're doing that. But second of all, I'm sure as hell not getting on Instagram and defending you.
Ariana's a better person than me. She's a bigger...
Yeah, she ended up doing it.
Yeah, she did it. And then also, the things that Sheena has been saying in these confessionals is so hurtful. And on Watch What Happens Live, Ariana was talking about it, and because Andy asked, was just like, what do you think about Sheena's comments about you and everything? And she's like, they're really hurtful. And I didn't know that all of these things were being said about me behind my back. And she said it in such a mature manner that I applaud her for that. Because, like, even as a therapist, you know, I mean, we're human too, but like, I don't know if I could have handled it that way. Like, I think I would have been like, why are you saying these things about me? Why are you saying these awful, horrible things? And maybe she has behind the scenes of like had that conversation with her, but I don't know. I think she just handled it very, very maturely.
Well, it's for anybody to expect Ariana to be okay with anyone being friends with Tom and being friends with her too. And I don't think that she means like, if you walk into the same room that Tom Sandoval's in, you need to immediately walk out because you're friends with me. She's talking about like going and hanging out and being friends on a close level with him. I don't think that that's unreasonable. I wouldn't want that either.
I find it so funny that to this day, Tom Sandoval has been like, Raquel got the restraining order on you for a reason because you punched her in the face and all this stuff. And Sheena is still just like, that was the worst thing of my life and like blah, blah, blah. But I still want to be friends with you. Even though he literally like signed off on that. Like it's a one-sided thing. Like I don't really think that he cares if he's friends with her or not.
No.
And she is over here like so hurt by all of this. And I'm just like...
Yeah. I think that he only cares if Sheena is his friend because Sheena is his ticket to the rest of the group.
Yes. That's it.
I don't think it's because of Sheena. I think it's because he's like, I can get everybody else on my side, which is what's happening. You know, like Lala's kind of somewhere on the fence now. James is kind of like coming around, like, so it's working. He's doing what he knows to do, and he went after Sheena first because he knew she would be... Tom Sandoval knew what he was doing when he went to Sheena and said, I know how hard this all was for you. Because that's what she grabs onto.
I loved Allie's face, like when they were all sitting there at Sir, and Tom handed James like a pair of sunglasses that he bought for James.
Yeah.
And Allie was just like...
Yeah.
The entire time. Her facial expressions were cracking me up because she was like, this dude is not genuine.
She's not about it. No.
That's a girl's girl right there.
Yes. And I will say this. We also got our first introduction to Joe, like where we got like airtime with her. And I can't stand her. Just from the small amount of airtime that she's had. I can't stand her. I think she's weird. I don't think that she's funny. And I think that she's a pick-me girl, just from the very little time that I've seen her. But everything about Joe was exaggerated on camera. Like, every joke that they made, she was, like, dying laughing. And I'm like, it's not even funny. And also, do you not know what Sandoval just did to somebody? And you're like, what's up, bro? The second that he walked, like, I don't know. I don't like Joe. I don't get a good vibe from Joe.
The facial expressions were cracking me up. Like they were just having like a normal conversation, and then like the camera had Joe on the side and she was making the
Mm-hmm.
the most
Extra.
eccentric faces I've ever seen in my life. And I'm just like,
yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
What are we doing? What are we doing here? We're having like a serious conversation and you're over here like curling your lip up over your teeth and like biting the air and shit. I'm like, what are you doing? What is happening?
100%. I think it's just to me it felt like one of those girls who's like, I'm just one of the guys, you know. It's just not a good vibe. And then we also saw Tom go talk to Lisa, and Lisa's like explaining to him like Rachel doesn't love you anymore, basically. You know, so Lisa apparently had talked to Rachel while she was in the mental health facility for a long time, and Rachel has blocked Tom Sandoval at this point, and told Lisa that she felt manipulated by him, did not love him anymore. And this is all news to Tom because she's blocked Tom. So he goes and talks to Lisa, and Lisa's like, well, I talked to her for a long time, and I think that it's over, basically, and I think that you need to move on. And he's just like, first of all, he said that her therapist and people were encouraging her to stay there, and he's saying she needs to leave and face the music. So that's what she was talking about. That lines up with what she was saying. But then he says something about, I can't, like, it's not going to be a direct quote because I can't remember it, but something about like, and they think I was like doing something bad or something. And I'm like, you still don't get it, do you?
No. It's like not clicking with him at all. I think it's also really funny that Lisa knew what was going on in Tom's relationship more than Tom knew what was going on in his relationship. Like he had no idea, and Lisa was just like, bomb drop. She doesn't fuck with you anymore. She fucking hates you. Yeah. And he's just like, what? Yeah. This is a shock to me. Why would she say these things about me?
With his fucking cookie dough ice cream. Why did he bring cookie dough ice cream to a restaurant?
Or like a lavender ice cream. What even is a lavender ice cream? That just sounds, honestly, that doesn't sound good to me.
It doesn't.
Also, I heard Stassi talking about this past week on a podcast, talking about how Rachel, during the, when they picked up cameras again, after the whole Sandoval incident, and Tom and Rachel were at her apartment and they were talking, she asked him, why did you record me? And he was just like, well, I wanted to show you like how beautiful you are and like how sexy you are and all this stuff. And she was like, but why did you record me? Like without me knowing. And then like, continue to not tell me that you had this recording of me, you know? And he just kind of was just like, if you leave this in the show, then I am not going to film anymore. He told that to producers.
Because he knew it was wrong.
Yes. Apparently, Stassi said that would happen all the time. Like, things like that would happen. And they would, like, the producers would get, like, pretty much manipulated into cutting things out. And then it would continue to make the girls look really bad.
I can see that, yeah.
And, like, Stassi was like, I really feel for Rachel in that because, I mean...
Like a media sexual assault or, like, technology
it definitely falls into that category. So, like, for those of you who don't know, the recording that Ariana found on Tom's phone that kind of kicked off this whole thing was Rachel and Tom on FaceTime having, like, FaceTime sex. And he recorded it, like screen recorded it without Rachel knowing. Yeah. And that's what Ariana found.
And then like kept it like on his phone.
And kept it.
But she didn't know. Which is why they're getting sued now. Ariana holds to the fact that she did not send that to anybody. I don't know that Ariana in her clear state of mind would send it to anybody. I don't know what Ariana in that bathroom stall watching it would do, because that's a very like, I'm sure
traumatic
like your
moment.
So
he read all of the things.
Yeah, But that's why she's suing them now, because this was, and it was apparently distributed somehow to some people. So
I think it's really shitty of Rachel to sue Ariana. Like, sue Tom. He was the one that recorded it and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there could be if evidence does come out that Ariana sent this to other people, like, that's horrible too. But I just personally, like, I don't feel like that happened at all. Yeah, for you to destroy someone's life and then turn around and try to sue them. I'm back on the not being a fan of Rachel anymore. Like, why would you do that? Like, I just feel like that's, you literally just dropped a bomb in someone's life and then just turned around and, like, dropped 2 more and all of this stuff. Like, you're just continuing to keep her from fully moving on and healing from this. And, like, you're keeping everyone down.
And I'm not saying this to victim blame at all. It is not right that he had that recording. That is not okay. Never do that to anybody, ever. What I am saying, how do you make decisions and hurt people and then judge them and want to accost them for their reaction to what your decision was that hurt them so badly? So, I don't know. That's just such a sticky situation.
It is. It's a really sticky situation.
So yeah, we'll see. They dropped the mid-season trailer, and it looks like it comes with a lot of drama, and it comes with Tom and Ariana being in the same space for the first time. Him trying to talk to Ariana, which why are you trying to talk to her? And of course she just walks off because we have nothing to say. I think that she meant what she said when she said, this is the last time you're ever going to talk to me. So any last words?
Yeah. And also in that trailer, you see Jax.
Yes.
Make his appearance and talking to Sandoval. Andy Cohen also said this because he was on his way to the reunion, and he said that he binged the last, like, 7 episodes of Vanderpump, and he was like, it kicks off. It is so good. Yeah. Everybody be ready for it. Because they filmed the reunion yesterday, I believe.
Yeah.
We got the seating chart. Yeah.
Which it looks like it did last year. It looks like the same seating chart.
The same.
Yeah, except for Brock is on there.
Brock is added. Why is number
why
one?
Why is Brock added and Allie's not? That was my question.
Yes. Yeah. That was my biggest question. Like, why was Brock on the stage for the whole time and Allie isn't? Did you also see that they invited Joe?
Why is she here? No. I'm telling you. Give it one more season. If Billy Lee ends up on my reunion station for any reason, we're done. We're done.
I can't. So speaking of Jax, in this episode, Katie says that there's still rumors about Jax running around town. Yeah. And in the after show, because they combined the after show with the Vanderpump, so they put them all together. Jax made the lovely comment and was going off and doing what he does in Jax fashion of getting irrationally angry.
Yeah.
And saying, like, Katie just runs her mouth and, like, she finds some Reddit thread and she starts blah, 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 blah. Yeah. He was so mad.
Yeah. Always.
And even Tom Sandoval, because it was Tom Sandoval, Schwartz, and Jax all on the same little section of the after show.
What a full circle moment.
It was. And Sandoval was just like, which his face says it all, of like, Jax, you know you run it around town. You know
I feel like we're back in 2012, sir, though, in that moment. Like, Jax getting irrationally wild mad over something that's true. And Tom both just being like, not opening their mouths because heaven forbid their crap come out. So it's just very deja vu.
literally, like when Jax starts getting irrationally angry and starts stumbling over his words and then starts doing the blame game
It's true.
of like Katie just runs her mouth about everything and blah 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 blah. And this is literally, like you said, circa Sir 2012.
Yeah.
When it came out that Jax was cheating on Stassi.
Yep.
And Stassi confronted him, and like everybody was confronting him about it, and he was like, "Y'all just want to start shit with me," and like ripping his shirt off and like fighting and all this stuff. Like,
yeah,
you have telltale signs, Jax, of when you're guilty.
Because if we go on the same timeline in a few weeks, he'll come out apologetically and be like, "It was true. It's true." And then he'll be like, everybody's done stuff in this group. I don't know why you guys are attacking me. Everybody's done things in this group. So that's just how it goes. He gets mad. He defends himself for as long as he can. And then he goes almost nonchalantly every time and be like, okay, yeah, I did it. Yeah. And then he'll be like, but everybody's done this. And then, yeah, that's his story the whole time. That's his pattern.
It is. Like, the funny thing that takes me back with Jax being irrationally angry was when Brittany and the girls confronted him about the Faith situation. And she was like, because Ariana was just like, I heard it was multiple times. Brittany was like, he told me it was once. Yeah. And they call him and she's like, I'm standing here with Faith right now, Jax. Tell me the truth. How many times was it? And he was just like, it was once. And she was like, obviously I'm not standing here with Faith right now, Jax. She's like, I would punch her in the face. It was so... But then Jax gets like even more irrationally angry, and he's just like, he says exactly what Ariana said he was going to say, of like, he's going to say, what does it matter if it was one time or if it was 10 times? It's the same thing, and blah, blah, blah. And he literally said that almost verbatim. Like, what does it matter if it was one time or 2 times or 3 times? And then he screamed at her. He was like, why are you doing this to me? And it's like, there we go, Jax.
All of these men,
we know.
All of these men are so good at like trying to be the victim in these situations that they create on this show. Except for like Tom Schwartz just plays victim. Like, I think because I don't even think that Tom Schwartz plays victim. I think that he just like is like not necessarily is the victim, but like he just like lays down and takes it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He's like, I'm just a make-out whore.
Yeah.
And Lisa's like, you can't be a make-out whore when you're married.
You're married. Yeah. And he's like, I know.
Let's end it with Katie saying, if I hear one more thing about Tom Sandoval, I'm going to throw myself off this balcony.
Because so felt.
It was great. Anyways, if I hear one more time of Jax getting irrationally angry about his own actions, then
I'm gonna throw myself off this balcony.
Because holy shit, dude. Yeah. Grow up, Jax. Please.
All right.
So we're going to go into our main topic today, which is talking about some famous families.
So we picked 2 families to kind of also segue into talking about like addiction. The fact that addiction has hit on these families specifically because I think addiction impacts families, obviously, no matter what your socioeconomic status is. But when it comes to celebrities, they have unlimited money, unlimited access to these things, parents and children alike. So it's definitely like a different dynamic, I think, sometimes.
It's also very publicized more so than obviously, us regular people out there with like, I know we've both talked about this, like our families have histories of addiction, and I mean, those weren't publicized for the world to see. I mean, there was a news article about one of my family members back in the day. A long time ago.
Publicized in Kentucky.
Yeah. but like local town paper, that's it.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it's not publicized for the world to see, and the world isn't talking about it and criticizing it like these families.
I think that it will be like a good double topic, I guess, to kind of go over. So we picked the Carters and the Lohans.
Yeah.
Some early 2000s babies. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff happening in these families. Not really.
Yeah.
Some pretty horrible things.
Good things now, maybe better. Oh, God. But not so good things in the beginning. So I'll start with the Carters. I've been knowing about the Carters because I just have been not obsessed with the Carters, but like I was obsessed with the Backstreet Boys, and then I was obsessed with Aaron Carter. I'm a big boy band person when I was a kid, so they were kind of in and out of the media a lot, and they had a reality show that I watched. I was too young watching reality TV, but that's where it all started for me. And I've just kind of kept up with Carter family throughout the years. And, you know, of course we know of Nick and Aaron Carter, obviously, but they also have 3 sisters. So it's a pretty big family of just a lot of dysfunction. There's a lot of dysfunction and there's a lot of addiction. So when this was before Nick hit the Backstreet Boys, their parents, I think they're from Florida. They had they all lived in an apartment, and below the apartment their parents owned a bar. So they weren't rich by any means. Nick Carter has a book, and that's probably where I'll get a lot of my information from, because I read his book a couple of years ago. But he talked about how his parents were consistently worried about money and therefore coped with alcohol. So there's a lot of heavy drinking for them as a kid. Nick Carter said his first alcoholic drink that he ever had was he was 2 years old. He stumbled into his parents' bar, and that's the first time he ever drank alcohol. But on top of that, there was a lot of domestic violence in the home too. There was, like I said, 5 kids in total. So you had Nick, then you had Bobby Jean, so BJ, then you had Leslie, and then you had Angel and Aaron, which were twins. So 1993, Nick gets auditioned for Backstreet Boys, and that's kind of that. Now, with Nick's career, his family was not really, like, with Aaron, we'll see that his mom does the, like, momager role a lot. Ends up being a problem. But with Nick, the Backstreet Boys had Lou Pearlman as their manager. So Nick I think Nick and his dad, if I'm remembering right, it might have just been Nick, kind of went off and did the Backstreet Boys thing. And then mom and dad were home with the kids, taking care of the rest of them, and that's just kind of how it was. In all of that, Aaron would go to these shows as a little baby. So Aaron is like showing a lot of promise in singing and dancing. So then Aaron kind of comes up on the scene for the kids who kind of were too young for the Backstreet Boys. We got Aaron Carter. So Aaron, I think, is like 10, the first album that comes out. So like he's a kid. And their mom kind of takes over as his manager. That being said, now this family has all of this money. Now this family that has a history of coping with alcohol has access to anything that they want. So we kind of see not just Nick, not just Aaron, but like the whole family kind of spirals. The whole family kind of dissipates on display for the world. Aaron Carter did a MTV Cribs episode 5 minutes before they opened the doors for the MTV Cribs. He was told his parents were getting a divorce. There's like a lot of turmoil in the marriage between the mom and the dad. There was a lot of criticism from the dad on how the mom was managing Aaron. The mom, her name is Jane, she took a lot of money from Aaron. I think she mishandled the money, but I also think she was stealing from him as well, as his manager. Obviously, the dad had a lot of criticism when it came to that, but the dad also had a lot of substance abuse problems himself. And after their mom and dad got divorced, there was a lot of domestic violence between the mom and the dad still. The mom would show up at the dad's house, and I think there was an incident where, like, their mom showed up at their dad's house, and the dad's new girlfriend was there, and Aaron was also staying there, and they had to call the police, and so it was, like, a huge thing. In the meantime, I mean, Nick is still with the Backstreet Boys, but Nick is, like, doing cocaine. He's doing a lot of ecstasy. He said in his book that, like, at the peak of his use, he was doing a lot of cocaine and drinking a bottle of vodka, like, every single night. Which, for people who don't know, cocaine is a stimulant and alcohol is a depressive. So when you mix those two, your body doesn't really know how to react. It can be very dangerous. So actually, it's kind of interesting that we were talking about Paris Hilton earlier, because he says that Paris Hilton's one of the worst influences that he had when it came to partying, because they dated for a while. Aaron kind of followed in the same footsteps. We see him, you know, starting to get in trouble for his drug and alcohol use. And Aaron actually went on the doctors a lot later on and said that he had a problem with paint can huffing. I don't know. It's just, you can see the whole disease run through the whole family. And I know that in 2006, everybody was kind of estranged, kind of separated, doing their own thing. Nick got a house and started a reality show on E! Network. And the house that he got, he brought all of the siblings in together. Nick says this was his attempt at bringing the siblings back together again. You see Nick bring in a family therapist on there, try to talk to them about the divorce and the relationships with their mom, because their mom had estranged relationships with all of them due to her addiction and how she behaved and things like that. And you can just see, when you watch The House of Carters, you can see how much trauma is in this family. Like, it's a mess. Nick at times is obviously on things. Aaron is on things at times. Their sister BJ is drunk, like, the whole time. It only had, I think, one season, because it was just, like, a train wreck, and it was a mess. Yeah. There's one point that Nick and Aaron get into, like, this really explosive argument. Starts off, Aaron, like, is playing his music at, like, midnight, and Nick kind of goes in there and is like, if you're going to be in my house, you're not going to play your music so loud and so late. And they end up kind of shutting themselves in a bathroom, and you can hear, like, physical altercation happening. And it ends up being this fight about how Aaron took Paris out when Nick and Paris broke up. So it was like this whole, like, thing, and you can just hear just pain between all of them. He talks about in his book how at the end of that, he offered to pay for therapy for all of his siblings. The only one who took him up on it was Angel, which is Aaron Carter's twin. And interestingly enough, Nick and Angel are the only ones still alive. Their sister Leslie died in 2013 from a drug overdose. Aaron died in 2022, drug overdose. BJ recently died this past year, drug overdose. Nick talks about it in his book of, like, he had a point where he was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy due to his drug and alcohol use. And he said that he had, like, this experience where he woke up into a hotel room, his eyes couldn't focus, he thought he was going to die, and he thought, this is my body's last chance of saying, like, you're going to die if you don't do something different. He ended up, I don't know that he went to rehab, I think that he took a lot of, like, measures himself to get sober, but, his book is called Facing the Music and Living to Talk About It, because now he's sober, he's in a healthier spot, he has 3 kids, he's still on tour with the Backstreet Boys, like, the Backstreet Boys are still going after all these years, and I think Angel is kind of the same way. She's in a very healthy, like, spot in her relationships and stuff now, but their family was just so full of generational trauma. Even their dad, after their dad got divorced from their mom, their dad was having, like, still had substance abuse problems, and I think he had a history of dating really young women and just kind of living off of the fame and the money of the kids. Nick was always the one Aaron had money too, but Nick was, I think, always the one putting forth the bill for their family therapy and them to go to treatment and them to do these things. And I think that put a lot of pressure on Nick to constantly be shelling out the money for the whole family, you know?
And also kind of being like, I'm the one that's keeping my family alive right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm
Yes.
the one trying to also not only hold like the money load, but like
Mm-hmm.
just like the mental load and the mental weight of everyone was kind of
Yes.
all on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Which is really upsetting to hear.
Yeah, yeah. In the reality show, you don't see Nick. You can tell he's the oldest brother, right? Because he's like telling them what to do, telling them what not to do, trying to help them. They get pissed off at him a lot, but he's just like, I'm just trying to guide you. Like, I'm trying to help you. But then he was also using substances at the time, and so like you see it. You know, he gets into an argument with his sister, and she's like super drunk, and she's like, "Well, are you sober right now? Are you sober right now?" And it's just this constant back and forth of toxicity. And I think Aaron Carter, in the last years of his life, the last couple of years, he had made a lot of headlines because he was going on Instagram Live a lot, doing really erratic things, getting face tattoos. He would be just at home on Instagram Live at all hours of the night, being really, really hyped up. And people would be like, there was a couple of times that he went on Instagram Live and it would go dark, but you would hear him huffing. Mm-hmm. And so people were like, is he huffing paint? Like, is he, is he using? We don't know what he's using. You know, there was people who would call welfare checks on him, and he would be on live, and the police would show up. And at one point, he had made claims against Nick that were never substantiated. That Nick had sexually abused him. Again, never substantiated. And I think he ended up dropping them. But Angel and Nick both put restraining orders against Aaron, and they, you know, Nick has publicly talked about like how difficult and horrible that was, and how hard that was to set the boundary, because it was just him and Aaron had such a close bond because they both were the boys of the family and they grew up in this musical world, and Nick always felt responsible for Aaron, so he's like, to put that in place was the most painful thing in the world, but like I had to do it to protect myself and my family, and just making that boundary for himself. And they weren't on speaking terms when Aaron died. Nick actually came out with a song after Aaron died that's called "It Hurts to Love You," and it talked about like, you know, I always wanted you to have peace, I always wanted you to have, you know, good things in the world. I'm always going to miss you, I'm always going to love you, and it was painful for me to love you. So like, it's just sad, you know. Yeah, and when you're a kid watching these people in the magazines, you're like, oh, their life is so glamorous, their life is so amazing, they must not have any problems. But then like to peel it back and look at all of the turmoil that was going on in this family's lives when they were on top of the world, seemingly, you know.
Yeah. And that's another thing, like, I mean, we'll see that with the Lohans too, of like their turmoil and their misery was made into a sexy story to sell to the world. And Lindsay Lohan made a comment once that was just like, I am single-handedly keeping tabloids in business. Like my family is, because of her like self-destruction and of like the family's drama. And the same thing with the Carter family.
And I think that it was interesting to see like Nick say that Paris Hilton was kind of the worst influence for him at the time, you know, because at the time she was out partying a lot, and that was all over the tabloids. And Nick and Paris were like, I mean, here's Nick, he's from the quintessential boy band, they're both blonde, they're both these beautiful people, and they're in this relationship, and you know, you think it's all hunky-dory and nice, but he's like, we were like doing drugs and drinking so much that my body literally couldn't handle it at that point. And
Paris was also friends with Lindsay at the time. And Aaron and Lindsay had a relationship.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yes. There was like a whole love triangle with Hillary Duff. I forgot.
So I wonder if like that whole kind of like crew of people like Paris, Nick, Aaron, Lindsay just kind of like fed off of each other's toxic behaviors, because I mean you see that with addiction, like and all of them have a history of that, and like family history of addiction too, which I mean we can talk about like just addiction has been studied and it's genetic. Whether that's like nature versus nurture, we don't know, but it's genetic.
Right. Yeah.
So
That's
for
science.
you to like put yourself in these situations, knowing your family history is really dangerous, and that's exactly what all 4 of these people did.
Well, and I think too, it's one thing if you come from a family that has money already, but when you come from a family who, especially if you think about it, the Carters has 5 kids, and you come from that family that has always struggled for money, of course Nick and then eventually Aaron is going to feel that like pressure to make as much as you can to help support the family, you know?
I mean, that's a lot of pressure being a kid and feeling like if you don't, we talked about this a couple weeks ago with the child stars, like if we don't perform and we aren't bringing in all this money, then our family doesn't survive, our family doesn't have a house, don't have food, X, Y, and Z. It's just a lot of pressure for a kid to have, and it's not their responsibility either, but we see a lot of these parental figures put that responsibility on their famous children.
In the House of Carters, you see, it's almost like, you know how in school we learn about the different roles that kids play when they're in dysfunctional families. You know, like you have the scapegoat, you have, you know, the kid who kind of acts out. You see, when you watch House of Carters, you can see that in each of these family members because their mom is still very sick at the time of this, like that this was recorded. So like she's very steep in her addiction, trying to get money out of all of them. At the time, Nick is very hard and fast with his boundaries of saying, I've given her a ton of money, I've paid for her to go to treatment, she doesn't do it, so I'm not doing it anymore. But then you see their sister BJ, who was like, I'm always there taking care of her, kind of enabling her in a way. And then they go to heads about it a lot because BJ thinks that Nick should be doing more, and Nick's like, I've already done everything, I've shelled out all the money for her to do these things. And it's just interesting to watch the family dynamics in that setting kind of play, because you still see so much of that generational trauma left in that family that they should not have been on reality TV. And I think Nick even said in hindsight, like, no, but at the time that was his way of trying to bring everybody back together. And trying to support them and trying to be that almost father figure that they needed, but it just did not go well for anybody.
I mean, that was a way for all of them to make money and to have their own kind of, you know, income coming in at the time. So I can see his like intentions behind it too, of like, maybe if we are, since everything's so public anyways, like maybe if we are arguing it out, like we can work through this. If like there's an incentive, aka money, then we can all get together and we can try to argue this out.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it didn't work out.
No. And he also said that he thought that was his way too of like, because Leslie really wanted to be in the music industry. So he was like, maybe this can get your name out there. Like, this can be something that you can get your name in something. I think Angel was always like wanted to be a model. So he was like, that's a way to get your name out there too. I think that was his way of trying to help, but it ended up just being destructive in the end. And to lose, I think, 3 siblings, I mean, 3 out of the 5 of them to die from overdose drug-related deaths. I mean, it's just, it's awful.
From this like horrible disease.
Luckily, Nick and Angel both seem like that they are doing well and are both sober at this point in their lives. Nick has said that there are times that he still will slip up with alcohol, but like he works very diligently. And like he talked about too in his book, you know, it wasn't just the substances. He was like, I was eating like shit. I wasn't sleeping like I was supposed to. I was being basically a shitty band member and being a shitty person to everybody. So like he's done a lot of work on like including physical activity, being family oriented, you know, being a better person to his bandmates. Yep, his book kind of turned into like a self-help book a little bit because he was like, this is what I had to do to change everything in my life. Like, you can also do these things. You can also come out of family trauma and do well. You just have to put in a lot of work to get there.
You have to put in the work and you have to face those demons that are in your family, which is really hard to do. Like going back to what you said about their fight that they had in the bathroom that was talking about like Paris and everything.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what happens when we bottle everything up is we keep pushing it until it's like you're playing your music too loud. So we're going to start an argument and the argument ends with us getting physical because you also went out with my ex-girlfriend. Like,
yeah.
Those are two very different things that were happening, but it blew up to that point because they had bottled it up. And that's exactly what happens. It explodes at the worst moment possible.
Yeah. Midnight. Freaking Aaron Carter is like this little pipsqueak. Like Aaron Carter at the time is like this really tiny, like really skinny kid. And Nick is like the big bad older brother who's like 3 times his size. But you can see, because like as a viewer, you're watching that and you're being like, okay, like they're getting into it because the music's too loud. But then they come out of the bathroom after Nick put his hands on Aaron or something. I don't know. They end up coming out of the bathroom and then Nick's like, and the whole family's out at this point, right? Like they got people over, people are out in the hallway watching this fight. Nick's like, you want to know my real problem is? This guy, he points to Aaron, took Paris out after, you know, and as a viewer, you're watching that and you're going, what? Where is this coming from? But like you said, it had been bottled down for so long. That's what the root of the problem appeared to be, is that he couldn't trust him. So, yeah.
And that's, like, you see that a lot with these families, is they kind of, like, bottle everything up, and then they use drugs and alcohol to keep pushing that down further. But it's going to come out eventually. It always comes out, and it always comes out at the most inconvenient, inappropriate times. And that's what you have to do, which I think, like I said, like Nick's intentions were good there of like, like, let's talk this out, let's hash it out. But nobody else was ready to do that.
No. And it's not funny, but like you watch it and you almost feel like Nick is trying to wrangle a bunch of like circus monkeys the whole time. Because like they get to the house, like there's one day that Nick's like at the recording studio with the Backstreet Boys all day. And he gets back and Aaron has thrown this party. And so Nick gets there and there's just people all over the house. They're drunk. You know, it's middle of the day. Aaron's jumping from like the roof of the house into the pool. And Nick's just pissed. I mean, Nick goes in there and Nick's like, you're going to get dressed because you're going grocery shopping with me in the middle of the day. And Aaron's just like sick grocery shopping and they're in the car and Aaron's like about to throw up from drinking and Nick's like, well, you won't drink again. And so like you see Nick do these almost father
Big
things.
brother.
Yeah, big brother things. And he's like trying, but that's what it feels like the whole time, is that he's being like wrangling. But again, at the same time, he was also using and drinking at the same time too. So they're not going to respect him if he's kind of doing the same thing.
One of the kind of like factors in addiction is like the younger you start using, the more likely you are to become an addict.
Yeah.
So you said Nick drank alcohol for the first time at like 2 years old.
Yeah. And his family, and he said his family laughed about it. Like it was funny that, and I think that's normalized in our society. Like, oh, it's funny. Like, and I think in his words, I read that he literally was like, I laughed about it too until I stopped laughing. Because it's not funny when that turns into my life.
If your 2-year-old went over and you know, for example, there was cocaine laying on your desk and they like went over and just like licked their finger like it was sugar, would you be laughing about that?
Right. Right.
Probably not.
Right.
But then, I mean, there's some families like sadly probably would laugh about that.
Right. And the thing about it is like alcohol and drug use changes the wiring of your brain and the chemical balance of your brain. It just does. And so when you're putting it in a body of a 2-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old, your brain is at crucial points of development.
Yeah.
At those times. Like, that's why, like, your brain is wiring every day, 24/7 when you're ages. So, when you put alcohol and drugs in the mix, those synapses are going to get really tangled up.
Like, you're already destroying your brain at such a young age.
That's why when I have clients come in who started using at a young age, especially, like, as it relates to, like, their parents or, like, their family system, I'm, like, trying to encourage them the whole time because they don't feel like it should be as hard as it is. But you're literally going against the wiring of your brain. You're literally going against how your brain is set up to work. So that's a lot of hard work to untangle and rewire.
Yeah, it really is. And like to go into kind of like the addiction 101, kind of like how your brain is on drugs. It's like they've done studies to where they talk about like your brain firing off and like the dopamine levels and everything of like when your body's need for survival. So they do like an MRI of your brain. And so they like starve you, for example. So when they starve you, your brain fires off different parts of the brain of signaling like, I'm hungry, I need food, all of this stuff. And that is probably, I think it's the size of like a baseball is like what your brain gets off. And then for water, they do the same thing, study with water, and it is a basketball.
Yeah.
And for your drug of choice, it is a baseball field.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
So like your brain signals like, hey, I need my drug of choice more than I need food and water.
Yeah. And that lives in your limbic system. That means it's his like you said, food, water, breathing, the part of your brain that controls everything that keeps you alive.
It's insane what addiction does to your brain. Tara Connor she was Miss Kentucky back in 2005, 2006, I believe, and then she won Miss USA as well. And she has come out and talked about her addiction and how it pretty much started at such a young age too. You know, she was sexually abused by her uncle, and she started using alcohol to cope with that. And there was a lot of use of alcohol and cocaine as well.
Yeah.
And then she went to rehab, didn't stick, came out, all of these things. But she talks about how like her parents were kind of just like, what were you thinking using at such a young age? And she was like, well, first of all, my brain wasn't fully developed at that.
So I wasn't really thinking.
At 14, 15 years old. So like I wasn't thinking, you know?
Yeah.
And then that continued to like slow down. Like it slows down your brain development.
It does, yeah.
It's really sad to look at. But yeah, she's been sober since like 2007, I believe. 2006,
That's
2007.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, and she's done so many TED Talks and everything. Everyone should look up her TED Talks. She's a really funny person.
That's the synopsis on the Carters. I have mad respect for Nick Carter. Like, I know that, like, he is a boy bander, so, like, people have their preconceived notions on that, but I have a lot of respect for Nick Carter and what he's done to kind of, like, change his own life.
People who talk shit about boy banders, grow up.
Grow up.
Seriously, grow up. I can't with people who talk shit about boy banders.
Yeah, and don't say nothing because that Backstreet Boys concert is lit even in now. So But anyways,
didn't NSYNC just drop a new song?
They did, and if they do go on tour, I will also be at the NSYNC show. Sorry to Nick, but I will also be there.
Going off of kind of like 90s, 2000s people, we're going to talk about the Lohan family.
Yeah.
So, starting off strong, Dina and Michael married in 1985, and they had the infamous Lindsay Lohan in 1986, which is so wild to me. Listen, my brain today was just like, so Lindsay and Hilary Duff are like 2-3 years older than Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Just like in my brain, they're like 10 years older than Taylor Swift.
I know, it doesn't compute. Yeah.
Because they lived like 5 lifetimes before Taylor Swift even got famous. Michael is Lindsay Lohan's dad, and he says that his addiction to alcohol started in 1982. So her mom was rumored to be a rockette because they lived in New York, New York City, and her dad worked on Wall Street. So he said that his addiction to alcohol was in 1982. And then people also speculate that that was around the time that he, around this late 80s era, he started using cocaine as well. And in 1990, he got sentenced to prison for 3 years for insider trading, and then violated his probation in 1997. So we already got some like legal history and addiction history with the Lohan family. At one point, Dina and Michael separated. This was around like 1994, 1995. And during that separation, he got his massage therapist pregnant. And it didn't come out that he had a kid until about 2007, 2008. He like was having a conversation with Lindsay and just kind of like dropped the ball. It was just like, yeah, you have a sibling? And she's like, what? Like, what is going on? In 2004, which we all know Lindsay she started doing commercials and movies in the 90s. She did like a Jell-O commercial back in the 90s. She started doing soap operas during that time as well.
That's how they always start, as those soap operas.
Yeah. So soap operas. And then obviously she got booked with The Parent Trap. And then that kind of like kicked off her deal with Disney. And she signed kind of like a three movie deal where she did Freaky Friday. Was it Life Size?
Probably Life Size. She was young in Life Size. But yeah.
Yeah. So those movies she signed that deal with Disney. So obviously she was making a lot of money. And at 17, she moved to LA by herself. Before then, she was living in New York, and then her mom was coming with her to like fly back and forth and everything. And then she moved to LA at 17 by herself. And everyone's asked, like, her parents, why did you let this underage girl move to LA on her own? And they were just like, well, I mean, she's been working for years. Like, she's fine. She's almost an adult and blah, 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 blah. Which was, in turn, one of the worst decisions that they ever made. And they've said that too. That was a really bad decision because that's when everybody sees what she was doing, which was partying, going out with Paris Hilton, and doing all kinds of stuff.
Paris,
one of my favorite
girl.
No, one of my favorite videos of Lindsay Lohan back in that day was, I think she just loved to start drama, and like since like the press was following her around and everything, she like went up to one of the paparazzi and was just like, look at my arm. Paris hit me.
Yeah.
And then like a few days later, Paris was just like, Lindsay, tell him the truth, Lindsay. And she was like, Paris didn't hit me. I made it up. I'm like,
I'm telling you,
happening?
to be in that circle in the early 2000s.
Yeah, there was that one time where she was just like, Paris is a cunt. And then like the paparazzi was like, why is she a cunt? Lindsay, why is she a cunt? Why did you say that about her? And Lindsay goes, what are you talking about? I didn't say that.
Literally 30 seconds later.
It's hilarious. Everyone should go watch those paparazzi videos because I crack up every time I see them. She was just there to cause chaos, and I lived for it. So those were also part of the paparazzi videos that I used to watch as kids.
Yeah.
As a kid.
The infamous paparazzi videos.
Great. Yeah. They were great. During this time also, because this was like probably like 2006 era too, Lindsay's mom was caught partying with her like all the time. They were going to clubs together, and she's gotten a lot of criticism for that. During this time, she wasn't talking to her dad. Her dad in 2004 assaulted Lindsay's uncle and got a DUI. And then since this also kind of violated his probation, he got sent to prison for 2 years. Whenever Lindsay or her mom would talk with him, he would record their conversations.
Yeah.
And he would leak it to TMZ. So one thing that is really disheartening to look back on is how both Dina and Michael exploited Lindsay and just kind of like their whole family, because there's also Michael Jr., who is Lindsay's younger brother, and then Allie, and then Dakota. They're all the siblings, and they just kind of exploit all of them and exploit their family issues. And you see them like publicly like feuding with each other instead of keeping a lot of things like private. Like every time that there's some kind of issue in the family, Michael or Dina goes to the press and is like, let me publicly talk about this.
Right.
And Lindsay's just like, can we not keep everything private? Like, can we not just not talk about it to the press? And for someone to record your private phone conversations is really, it's extremely upsetting. There's multiple times where Lindsay and her mom were fighting, and Lindsay or Dina would call their dad, and he would just record the entire conversation. And then like in the conversation while they're heated and everything, Lindsay or Dina would say something really bad about the other, and it would just be headline news like the next day.
Yeah.
Which was absolutely horrible, because it was like Lindsay was like, yeah, mom's doing cocaine. That became a headline. And then it was like, yeah, Lindsay punched me. And then that became a headline. Like it just went so back and forth. Like there was one time Dina went on GMA and she did an interview talking about Lindsay and her role as a mother and her doing the best that she could and all of this stuff. And then I think it was like Access Hollywood or someone did an interview with Michael and showed him the interview on of Dina on GMA. And he just got to sit there and rebuttal the whole thing. Everything that she said, he got to be like, no, she didn't do that. No, she's actually a horrible person. She makes up shit. She's a pathological liar. And you just see them constantly feuding and constantly just bringing each other down throughout the media. And in 2016, they did Family Therapy, which is, it was a show that had like one season on VH1, and they did Family Therapy, and Michael like walked out on like a bunch of different things. Like every time that Dina would start talking, like Michael would be like, you're fucking lying, and like wouldn't let her speak. And I'm just like,
that's how family therapy really goes, everybody.
Yeah, it was really frustrating. There was an incident back in, it was like 2010, I believe. It was when Lindsay was going through a lot of like legal troubles and everything. She was in Cannes filming a movie, and she got her passport stolen, and she actually ended up missing a court appearance. So obviously that put her in a lot more legal trouble when she got back, which was why she had to go to jail.
Yeah.
And which is where we get the infamous, her crying in court meme and everything
Yeah.
was due to this whole incident.
Yeah.
But she talks about how she believes her dad set her up and was the reason why her passport got stolen. And then also in the interview, it talks about the picture that she took of someone in their hotel room. She says that she just like popped in someone's hotel room because they were like, "Hey, Lindsay, come take a picture with us." And she was like, "Okay, cool." She popped in their room, took a picture with them, and left. And she said that she had no idea that there was drugs everywhere in that hotel room. And just kind of watching it back, I'm like, girl.
Yeah. It's the addiction behaviors that we see. Yeah.
I was like, come on, girl. He was going to sue Dina for like money for their kids because like he was like, you're making all this money from our kids because like Allie at the time, released a song. It was like recording an album. They had their own like reality TV show that went on for a season of like freaking Dina being a momager to Allie, which it was crazy.
It's always reality TV. These stars are like, we're in turmoil. Let's put it on TV.
Yeah, it was crazy. And also in that, like you see Dina like reading tabloids every day. She's like, yeah, I wake up, I have my morning coffee, and then I read the tabloids. It's like, girl, just put the tabloids down. Like, don't listen to this. Prior to Allie and Dina's reality TV show, Michael was like, I want money. I'm going to sue you for all this money. He was like, I will drop the case if we get a reality TV show. So then I think it was really funny that like Dina and Allie went and like made a reality TV show without Michael in it. So
petty.
I think it's a little petty, but it's really funny.
Yeah.
So but what's not funny is kind of like the abuse that Lindsay has talked about that she witnessed between Michael and Dina. Obviously like there's a lot of addiction there on both parents' sides. Yeah. But if you have ever seen the music video, or even just listened to the song by Lindsay Lohan, it's like a letter to her dad. It's called Confessions of a Broken Heart. In the video, it has Allie, which is Lindsay's little sister, in it. Yeah. And then it has Lindsay in it. And then it has these two people kind of playing like her parents' role, and they're fighting throughout it. And it gets really intense and it gets really violent. And there's actually a part where it like pauses, and I mean, throughout it, you can kind of hear the screaming and the music kind of like playing in the background and kind of over top of it. But then at one point it like the music pauses, and then it's like this huge all out screaming match between these two people. And Lindsay directed the video. Yeah. And she wrote the whole thing. And at one point you also see like it kind of like pans out because it goes to Lindsay and Allie like kind of holding each other, listening to their parents fight, them listening through the door, all of these different things. And then you see when the camera pans out, it's like they're in this like window, their whole family is in this window, and people are walking by and watching it and everything. And it's just kind of like this huge like eruption. And I think it's very symbolic of what their family was going through, of like their entire family drama and fights were made public to the world, and people were just standing there watching and not doing anything about it while her mom was getting beat. Like you just see people just like standing there like, oh my God, but you don't see anyone doing anything to like help the situation. You see these kids like screaming and crying and being so upset, but you see just people standing there being like, oh my God, like this is a spectacle. I'm not going to step in and do anything to help it. I think that music video and that song was like beautifully done. And to this day, like I feel like that is one of the most heartbreaking songs.
Mhm.
Because it
Yeah, it
really
was so
shows,
good.
yeah, it shows like just the feelings that Lindsay had not only about her dad, but just like
Mm.
their family drama and how horrible the public treated all of them
Mhm.
while their
Mhm.
life was imploding. You know, going back to like the Carters, like while their life was imploding, the world was just sitting
Mhm.
there watching
And,
and profiting off their misery.
yeah. And we see these two families that have both had addiction, but also domestic violence, running so rampant. You know, Nick talked about in his book kind of the same thing, him sheltering his younger siblings from these fights, and that his parents would storm in and say, "We're getting a divorce. Which one do you want to live with? Decide now." And like, that's a vivid memory that he has, like Lindsay, you know, of these violent outbursts and these things that the kids feel like that they're put in the middle of and that they're trying to shield from. And it's, you take families like this who already have these problems running so deep, and then you just give them endless access to the thing that makes the problems that much worse, and you put them in a snow globe for the whole world to judge them and spectate on, you know.
Yeah. And like it makes sense, you know, why um Lindsay has had a history of addiction.
Mhm. Mhm.
It makes perfect sense why all these
Mhm.
things happened in the early 2000s. And I think, you
Mhm.
know, the media now has gotten I want to say a little bit better with like
Mhm.
respecting like the addiction world.
Mhm.
Um and not trying to profit as heavily off of it as they did back
Mhm.
then, because you just see it in such a heartbreaking manner. Like, I don't even
Mhm.
know how to describe it. Like, how they did it back then, they just,
It just was like they were caged animals.
yeah, like they weren't humans. They
Right.
weren't going through
Mhm.
these like super traumatic things. Like they're just there for our entertainment.
And at the ages of 18, 19, 20 years old, you
Hmm.
know, they the world is not thinking about how damaging that is for anybody, but much less kids. If you're a
Yeah.
kid at that age, you know?
Yeah. And like there was a video and it showed like Lindsay on her 21st birthday and she was sober, and
Mhm.
she was like, yeah, you know, I'm sober. And then it was like a few days later, you know, is back in rehab, like just a few days
Mhm.
after her 21st birthday. And when I
Mhm.
was looking at that picture of her on her 21st birthday, I was like, she was blonde. So
Mhm.
like she had already done Mean Girls,
Mhm. Mhm.
Confessions of a Broke or a Teenage
Drama queen.
Drama
Yeah.
Queen, um obviously Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
Like she had done all of these movies before she was
Mhm.
21 years old. And I
Yeah.
was like, she's released all this music too before she was
Mhm.
21. I was like, holy shit, like this girl has lived like 5 lifetimes before she turned 21.
Mhm.
That's insane to me.
Just kids being doing adult things, you know, and
Yeah.
then being criticized for not doing it correctly.
I mean, what example did she have?
Right. Mhm.
She didn't have a good example with either one of her parents, you know,
Yeah.
because I mean, both of her parents were more concerned about like one upping the other than they were
Mhm.
about like getting better, getting
Yeah.
help, and also helping their own daughter.
Yeah.
Like for for a mom to wake up every day and read the tabloids, there's one thing that Lindsay said. So she was talking to I think the Irish Examiner in 2010,
Mhm.
and she was talking about her parents. She said he's put myself and my mother and my mom's parents through so much hell, from the
Mhm.
death threats to throwing shoes at my grandfather's head and giving him a
Mm.
concussion to threatening to kill my mother in front of my little brother Dakota. I grew up
Mm.
so fast just because of the situations I was subjected to because of my father. My mom would try to shield me from that as much as possible, but I chose to get in the middle of my parents my entire life. I feel like in some way, like that sounds like she felt like she had some kind of responsibility to protect not only her siblings from her parents, but protect her parents from each other.
Yeah. Which is probably because she is the oldest. You know, you see a lot of these oldest siblings take on these more adult roles and feel like they have to protect everybody from each other, and it's so much responsibility and pressure, you know?
Yeah, for a kid to have to put up
Mhm.
with, you know.
Mhm.
And like, I mean, you see her mom get arrested for DUIs.
Mhm.
Even as late as I think like 2014,
Mhm.
2015, I believe. Also, I found it really interesting while doing the research on the Lohans that her father was just arrested in 2021 for patient laundering. He encouraged addicts to seek treatment at a specific rehab center, which would then pay him money for bringing the patients in. So he was profiting off of people's addiction while having an addiction himself.
It's almost like you see the kids take the role of the adult and the parents revert back to being kids.
Yeah.
Because you see the parents being like getting this money and getting a taste of fame, and they just run wild and do whatever and act however. And then you see the kids having to be the breadwinners and the responsible ones, and you know, when really that's not how it should be. You know, the parents
No.
should be there, you know, in stable families where you don't have this generational trauma and these already deep rooted issues like Taylor Swift's family, they still, I feel like, have more of the parental role in her life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not saying that
Like,
those families are perfect or without flaw, no, but you don't see their problems plastered all over the press, and you don't see these big explosive things and these addictions playing out. You just don't see that.
yeah. They're like, I mean, like with their divorce, they're like, this isn't anyone's business but our own. I'm not going to try to outshine my daughter,
Mhm.
which I think
Mhm.
is exactly what both of these people were trying to do.
Right.
And I mean, that's why you see her dad go on Dr. Phil, like,
Mhm.
or Dina goes on Dr. Phil. I don't know.
Mhm.
One of them went on Dr. Phil,
Mhm.
probably both of them. Um, why they went on that like family
Mhm.
therapy,
Mhm.
why they still get interviewed and still talk about this to this day.
Mhm.
Um, there was a big fight back in the day on the Real Housewives of Atlanta because Michael went on Real Housewives of Atlanta, and I don't know if he was like on a date with one of them or what
Mhm.
it was, but it started a huge fight.
What a
And
weird crossover.
yes, and like there was like this huge fight that was just like, oh my god, it's Lindsay Lohan's dad, and like all these fights, like you better get up off Lindsay Lohan's dad, you better stop. It was so funny, like it just clout essentially.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think Dina was made for reality TV though, so I can see her as a Real Housewife, and if she
Yeah.
wants to do that, she should probably do that.
Yeah.
To be honest, if you want to make money, go be
Better go
on
on the
Real
Real
Housewives.
Housewives.
Because, like, I can see that.
Yeah.
But apparently, like, I read an article because today is St. Patrick's Day. And
Our, we're not very festive, but
no, and Lindsay Lohan just released like an Irish themed St. Patrick's
mhm.
Day movie. And her parents were there for her. They were at the
Mhm.
premiere.
Mhm.
She was seen talking to them. They didn't really do interviews, which I think is
Mhm.
like
Healthy. Yeah.
phenomenal for them.
Yeah.
Um, kind of like being a background character
Mhm.
finally for in Lindsay's life. And
Yeah.
you know, they were there supporting her and all good things. And Lindsay has talked about for the past couple of years, she's talked about her like healthy relationship with her parents now
Mhm.
and their healthy relationship with each other.
Mhm. Which
because
is
I think
like
everybody's sober.
Yeah, which is like the beautiful part of these two well, there's tragic and there's beautiful parts, but like you have people who make it out of those situations and are doing well now. The Carters, Robert, their dad died, and their mom, I think, is still in the madness, as they call it. I don't think Angel or Nick have anything to do with her, but Angel and Nick are very close, and they have kids, and their kids are together all the time. When you think of child fame and these families, you think of like just a tornado of things coming through, but there are ways to make it through that, you know?
Yeah. And to like end on a positive note, go watch Lindsay's new movie. Apparently it's a really funny rom-com. And I'm so happy to be seeing Lindsay Lohan over the past couple of years back in movies, because she's a phenomenal actress, and I think that's literally all she's wanted to do is act and have like a healthy, successful career and do what she loves. And I think she loves acting, and she's phenomenal at it.
Good for her.
I'm excited to watch this movie. I'm probably going to watch it this evening just to get in the festive spirit. I'll make Josh watch it since he likes rom-coms. He will deny that he likes rom-coms. But to call him out, he rented Anyone But You on his own Friday night.
Unprompted. Yeah.
Unprompted, because I just went to like to my email and it was like, your rental, Anyone But You. And I was like, I didn't rent that. And might I add that we have already watched it. We watched it in theaters. So he knew what it was about and he liked the movie. So he just wanted to watch it again.
Yeah. Your secret's out, Josh.
Yeah. Anyways, it was Glen Powell's ass. He just wanted to see Glen Powell's ass again. You know?
Josh is like, you better strike this from the record.
So we're going to do our intentions for the week and then we're going to call it a day.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
What are your intentions for this week?
Well, I think my intentions last week were to like get outside and walk, and I did really good on that. I don't know if like anyone can tell. I don't know if I got any sun on my face, but
you look no different, and you're like, I have a bit of a tan, so
I have a little bit of a tan, you know. Yeah, I literally walked almost every day last week, except for one day it rained. And then there was another day that it was way too cold, and I was like, fuck this, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So, but I walked every other day, and then I made up for it yesterday. I went on 2 walks, which was really good. So I went on my own personal walk, and then when Josh got done with some outside work, he was like, let's go on a walk with Millie. So we went on a walk with Millie around the neighborhood. And we ended up at a playground because we live really close to a school. We ended up at a playground, and I got on a swing, and Millie kept trying to walk in front of the swing as I was coming down. And I was like, you are going to get hurt.
She has a death wish.
Stop. I was like, I can't stop this swing when it comes down. Okay, my intention for the week is to finish my book series. That's going to be it. Just finish the Throne of Glass book series. So I think I have like 5 hours left on the audio, and probably like less than that, I think, on the like Kindle if I picked up the book to read it. So yeah, that's the intention.
What are we going to do when we're done with these series? Like,
I don't know.
Kate and I are about to be in a drought of book. So if anybody has any like book recommendations that are good, send them our way. Send
them for sure.
So
anyways, what's your intention for the week?
It is my intention for the week. Okay, my intention for the week is to actually, let me preface this by saying I live alone. I'm doing stuff all the time. I travel like to the offices that I work in. So like I'm always driving, moving, going. I don't do well with planning my meals out.
Mm-hmm.
We get home, we're probably going to have some semblance of a girl dinner, right? My lunches that I take to work with me, they're kind of weird sometimes, okay? Because I'm just like putting stuff in my lunchbox and I'm like, whatever. I would really like to do better about planning my meals out this week. That's what I'm going to do today, I think. So that way that they're like intentional meals and I'm like taking care of myself in that way. Because usually I just fly by the seat of my pants and I'm like, whatever's in the fridge, that's what we're getting. And like, that's fine. But like, I think for me, just like trying to get organized, which is kind of something that I'm trying to do anyways, that will help me. So my intention is going to be to plan out for meals a little bit better, be intentional about what I'm eating. That way it's not just kind of like throwing together random things.
Yeah.
Literally, like my lunch at work last week was like pork and beans and some crackers. Because I was like, well, I'm just going to throw them in there and that'll be enough. And I'm like, and that was plenty, but it's just weird. That's weird. So we need to be better about what we're eating.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't have a girl dinner.
We're just going to be intentional eaters.
Intentional eaters for the week.
Yeah.
Intentional readers and eaters.
Readers and eaters. It's who we are, people.
Yeah. Well, we will see y'all next week with a new episode. And if you want a little sneak peek at what that episode is going to be, follow us on Instagram.
Follow us on Instagram.
Leave us a review and have a good week, everybody.
All right. Okay, love you. Bye.